Why is caviar so expensive? Have you ever wondered what the super rich and ultra wealthy members of society actually eat? Considering they are part of the select 1% of humans in the world, it is expected that what they call food will be pretty pricey and exquisite. I am not referring to burgers and pizza, as what they eat holds more worth than the regular snacks we consume. One of the major foods being consumed by the 1%ers is caviar, and you can be sure that they cost a lot of money. Every random person knows just how pricey caviar can be, but have you ever wondered about the cost of the most expensive caviar in the world and how it's made? Caviar is a delicacy consisting of salt-cured roe from wild sturgeon obtained from the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. There are about 25 varieties of sturgeon, with the best-known varieties that are perfect for making caviar being the beluga sturgeon, the Sevruga sturgeon, and the Russian sturgeon, known as the caviar osetra. Caviar can also be obtained from other species of sturgeon and other fish, such as carp, salmon, lumpfish, trout, whitefish, or steelhead. Caviar isn't a new dish, as it has been around for centuries. Records exist that date the existence of caviar to as far back as 1240 AD, as they were already quite popular in Russia at the time. Caviar was a huge part of the Russian tradition. However, it wasn't until the 1500s that this exquisite delicacy started making its way into Europe and other parts of the world as a luxurious treat for royalties. In fact, there was a time in British history when this delicacy was served only for the royals and elite in society, earning the name the royal fish. Now, it is widely available at any restaurant worldwide and is no longer reserved for royalty alone. We go behind the scenes to see how caviar is made and why it's so expensive. As I have previously mentioned, we get caviar from fish. However, there is more to process than that. About 90% of the world's caviar production originates from the Caspian Sea basin, with around half of that coming from Iran. The Iranian caviar industry consists of more than 6,000 families living on the Iranian shore, which has been commercialized since 1991 by the official licensed company, State Fisheries of Iran Shalat. Thanks to excessive fishing habits, fraudulent transportation, and water pollution due to sewage accumulation in the Caspian Sea, there has been a considerable reduction in the sea's sturgeon population. According to the International Sturgeon Research Institute, the quantity of sturgeons has been in decline since the end of the Soviet Union. To avoid fraudulent practices and ensure that the caviar consumed comes from authorized sources, the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna was launched and became vital to preventing fraud in multiple cases with the Chinese origin producer. In September 2005, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service prohibited the importation of beluga caviar from the Caspian Sea to protect the endangered beluga sturgeon. This ban was extended to include beluga caviar from the entire Black Sea basin within 1 month. And in January 2006, CITES supported an international embargo on caviar export. However, in January 2007, the ban was partially lifted, permitting the sale of 96 tons of caviar, which was about 15% less than the official 2005 level. In July 2010, SIS countries like Russia and others restarted the caviar export business with quotas permitting the export of 27 tons of osetra, 17 tons of Sevruga, and 3 tons of beluga. In September 2010, Kazakhstan introduced a state monopoly brand, Zyk Balik, received from the Kazakh world of the Ural River. Under their agreement with CITES, Kazakhstan was given the right to produce 13 tons out of the 80 tons permitted up until February 28, 2011. The process of caviar production starts with the extraction of the roe of the sturgeon or whatever fish is used for this process, which requires using the latest technologies. The cultivation and commercial production of caviar has become quite famous, thanks to overfishing in the wild. Sturgeons are raised for caviar by aquaculture all over the world, using a process in which they are received from a young age, fed, and provided with the appropriate conditions needed to ensure optimal growth of the sturgeons. Once the female sturgeon ovulates, certain tests are carried out to ascertain its quality. Some of these tests are used to ensure the quality of eggs are biopsies and ultrasounds. Various procedures are used to sedate the sturgeons, including exposure to sedatives or carbon dioxide, and sedation using low electrical current. Once the sturgeon is sedated, a high-frequency ultrasound scan is used to evaluate the female sturgeon's ovaries, or roe sacs, and to gauge egg production in each fish, one at a time. The process of commercial caviar production originally involved stunning the sturgeon and extracting the ovaries. However, other methods of extracting caviar have been introduced, which involve performing a cesarean section on the female, allowing it to continue producing roe. Other farmers prefer a process known as stripping, which involves extracting the caviar from the fish through a small incision created along the urogenital muscle, which is done when the female sturgeon is considered ready for processing. An ultrasound scan is used to ascertain the perfect timing. However, removing the caviar by massage may produce higher quality caviar and serve as a more sustainable source. The extraction process is followed by the preparation process, which follows a system that has not changed much over the last 100 years. Once the ovaries have been extracted from the sedated female sturgeon, they are passed through a sieve to remove the ovaries membrane. The extracted roes are then rinsed to get rid of the impurities. After the impurities check, the roes are finally ready to become caviar, which is achieved by adding a certain amount of salt for preservation and taste. The fresh product is put through a taste test and graded based on its quality. Finally, the finished products are packed into lacquer-lined tins that will either undergo further processing or be sold directly to customers. As I have previously mentioned, the most appreciated and expensive caviar in the world today is the Beluga Caviar, the Osetra Caviar, and the Sevruga Caviar. Each caviar has its specific characteristics, including salt content, size, flavor, color, aroma, and many other features. The rarest and costliest caviar comes from the beluga sturgeon that swim in the Caspian Sea, bordered by Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Azerbaijan. The beluga caviar is famed for its soft, pea-sized eggs, ranging from pale silver gray to black. The next most expensive caviar is the small golden sterlet caviar, which was once reserved for Iranian, Austrian, and Russian royalty. This is followed by the medium-sized, light to rich brown-colored Osetra caviar, also known as Russian caviar. Other caviars ranked in decreasing order of quality include the gray Sevruga caviar, the Chinese Beluga caviar, and the American white sturgeon caviar. It goes without saying that these caviars become more expensive with increasing quality. When it comes to cost, caviar is considered expensive by normal standards. The most expensive of all caviar is almas, gotten from the Iranian beluga fish, a rare albino sturgeon from the southern Caspian Sea, between 60 and 100 years old. 1 kilogram of this delicacy is regularly sold for 20,000 EU, which costs around $34,500 at the time. Wild beluga sturgeon caviar from the Caspian Sea cost $16,000 per kilogram in 2012. Factors such as texture, flavor qualities, and whether the caviar was retrieved from the sturgeon by massage rather than by killing it all determine how expensive it will be. The shortage of sturgeons and the regulations limiting their capture have also contributed to this delicacy's expensive nature.